All said. Now, do you remember in January of 2011 and the whole world lost its mind because they were taking our sun sign away? Remember? The frantic? There's a 13th sign. Oh, I'm no longer a Sag. Remember? Boy, people just got freaked out because, everybody's got a nose. Everybody's got one. They don't want their sign taken away. Well, the astronomers, picture the walls here as painted the constellations around that belt, not the 88, but just the 12, the Lion, the Virgo, all that. Picture it painted around here permanently. As the sun goes around the Earth, when we're in astrology it does.
That was another life.
Yeah.
It's Earth-centric.
Astrology is geocentric. Yeah. As the Earth goes around the sun, in astronomy, when you draw the first day of spring, when you draw a line between the Earth right through the sun out and intersect the zodiac, you get about the 3rd degree of Pisces. The first day of spring, you get the 3rd degree of Pisces. Here's spring. When Christ was born, you drew a line from the Earth through the sun and it intersected 0 Aries. We're backing up into the age of Aquarius, not the 5th dimension in 1968, but it's coming in any time now. Nobody knows for sure. But since Christ, we've been in the age of Pisces. 2000 BC until 0, we were in the age of Aries. Okay, and that's because of the Earth's wobble. So in the year, it takes 25,000 years for this cycle. In the year 12,500, when you poke a hole from the Earth through the sun, you will come out at 0 degrees of Cancer, or Libra. Completely opposite. In the year 25,000, they'll be back in sync again. When it's spring, we shift the zodiac, it's 0 Aries. We call it 0 Aries. We're done. That's it. That's why the 2 zodiacs don't match. That's what spurred this panic in January of 2011. I'm getting caught in my own wire. So, in astrology, when it's spring, we call it 0 Aries. So when you want to sense the beginning of Gemini in astrology, it's always 1/6 of the year into the year. Always. 1/6 of the year. Astrology is based on the seasons. Matter of fact, just the northern hemisphere, the seasons. So, in the year 12,500, spring will be at 0 Aries again. We're always at 0 Aries. So when you're a 0 degree Capricorn, that just means you're born 3/4 of the time into the year. That's all it means. So that's why the 2 zodiacs are out of sync. And that's why people get weird. And then what happened is this professor from some community college got interviewed on some news station. This had to happen astrologically, and I'll tell you why. He said, well, there's a 13th sign, and that means that you're a Scorpio, you're not a Scorpio. So what had happened is there's another constellation called Ophiuchus who sits up here with his toes touching in this area between Scorpio and Sag. And he always wanted to be one of the 12, but you cannot have more than 12. You have to have 12. Mathematically, it's a cosmic rule.
What does Ophiuchus look like? Like Sagittarius?
Ophiuchus is a big man holding a snake. Holding a big serpent. Very big man holding a snake. His toes touch down here. And if you inserted him, then we'd have to throw half of the degrees of Sagittarius away and about a half, 2/3 of the Scorpio degrees away to insert Ophiuchus, and then you would have 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 12, 18. It'd be all screwed up. So you had to go into the mythology to solve this problem and find out what Ophiuchus was like. So meanwhile, all these people are freaking out. And what are us astrologers? That's the only time they call us on the news. What's going on? Because we're all losing our sign. Well, I was sitting there thinking it was January 11th. This happened on January 4th. And a bolt of lightning hit me in the head and knocked me on the floor. And all of a sudden I knew what happened. I said to myself, what's everybody freaking out about? There's a 13th sign which isn't true. You have different sun signs, which isn't true. The two zodiacs really conflict, which isn't true. I said, what's going on? Because the whole world was in panic about losing their sun sign. Well, worldly things happen when worldly planets activate. Mars and Venus are not worldly planets. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Those are the big mamas. When they move, they cause seismic shift. They cause something to happen. So I said to myself, I wonder if I would go back 84 years ago if that would solve my problem. Why? One revolution of Uranus. Because Neptune, I have to go back 186. So I went back to 1925, 84 years ago. In October of 1985 was the Solvay conference in Belgium, where the likes of Planck and Bohr and Einstein and Heisenberg and all the great minds of physics declared that, sorry, Mr. Einstein, but quantum physics is here to stay. And on that day, in October of 1925, you can see the great picture in my newsletters. It's a picture of about 20 of the great physicists. Madame Curie was there. And all the great minds came to just say, gulp, we're going to have to accept this quantum theory. And even over in the corners, your brilliant Einstein, he didn't want to accept it. Pauli was there, all the greats. So I'm still looking around and what did I see? I looked January 11th, 2011. Jupiter is with Uranus in early Pisces. Jupiter is every 12 years, every 12 years, every 12 years, every 12 years. Uranus every 84 years. Jupiter and Uranus were right in early Pisces in 2011. In 1925, in October, they were at the same exact place. Same exact place. Jupiter and Uranus had been going around and around and around for 84 years, and they linked up together again for the second time since the Solvay conference. And that's why I knew what I knew. And I wrote to Tarnas, and I said, this is what's happening. This is really big. And what it meant was, quantum is here to stay. Because Jupiter is about publishing, telling the people, telling the educators. It's no longer debatable. Now everything's got to fit into the quantum world, into the holographic world. And that's why I was jumping around in my living room like an idiot, because I realized I'd been knocked over with something that was really valid. But anyhow, so we go back 84 years to see the repeat of the same pattern. Now those two planets that just made their new promise after completing their 1925 promise, and I showed through almost every war we've had been separated by 84 years in the newsletter, shows over every one of them. The Jupiter in Uranus, which is all about expressing high tech, expressing physics, inserting physics into our knowledge base. So since January of 2011, we have been on this new cycle, which is permanent. We may change to something greater, but we're not going back before the quanta. Now, does anybody have any comments on that cycle that I just brought to you? It should be in sync with what you think.
When do you get January 11th then?
It happened on the 4th. It took me 7 days to realize it.
Oh, okay. So that's Rick time, okay.
Rick time.
I get it.
I've never seen anybody else write about it, but I'm certain of it.
Okay.
Because, yes,
Rick, are you saying that it corresponded, that
Yeah.
same Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, with when they brought out this idea that we have 13 signs?
very good. What I'm saying is there was a tremor in the air. There was turbulence in the air, and people didn't understand it. And the closest thing they went to when they went to this community college professor was he said, oh, well, there's 13 signs. There always has been. These two zodiacs don't match. And he caused this panic, but the panic rippled. Those subjects have been brought up before, never rippled. And it was he was putting a false story on top of a real ripple.
Oh, okay.
And it was the quantum ripple. And that's what I knew, and that's why I dug so hard. I said, something's going on here, because people were freaking out everywhere. People were, I got to take my tattoo off. And they were losing it. But another thing I want to tell you, and this I know in my heart, and so does Eliza, this is the age of astrology. This is now the time, and I believe this book has a lot to do with the new age, because it explains things in archetypal terms. But now,
Talk about the connection between the Pali and Jung and astrology, and explain kind of the further connection between the realization of quantum physics.
well, we both read the book called about Pali and
Cosmic number, and also
discerning the cosmic number. But the book is all about the conversation between Pali and Jung, because Pali was kind of a wild man, and he would go to Jung to help get himself straight, and he was very open to what was going on with the archetypes, with what he was doing with quantum physics. He was trying to parallel. They both came up with synchronicity in their own ways, and they had a very good, healthy, open relationship, unlike Jung and Freud. And one was dancing with physics and one was dancing with psychology.